Hi, welcome to part 2 of this introduction to budgeting. If you haven't seen part 1, you might like to check that out first. But carrying on with our theme, a common question is when people begin budgeting, should I budget weekly or monthly? Well, there's no definite answer to this, it's whatever suits you best, but we'll look at some of the things that you might want to think about in making that decision. These days, many people get paid monthly and many bills fall due monthly, which can make it tempting to budget on a monthly basis. Personally, I prefer to budget weekly, and I have 2 reasons for this. First one is that a week is shorter, and I find that easier to visualize, and if there does happen to be a problem, then it's faster to spot it and to do something about it. And the second reason is that weeks are always the same length, that is 7 days. Months have different lengths, so the math for months can get a little more difficult. If you get paid monthly, you've probably already noticed that there isn't always the same time between paydays. And if your budget is tight, that means if your income and spending figures are close together, that can be a problem, particularly where there's a longer period between paydays. Now, many people choose to withdraw money from the bank or do their main shopping on the same day each week. So, for example, many people like to withdraw money on Fridays, so they have some money in their pocket for the weekend. This is a good idea, as it's easier to keep track of your spending than if you frequently draw small amounts at irregular times throughout the week. But by having a regular payday, it does mean that if you're paid monthly, there will sometimes be 4 and sometimes 5 main paydays or withdrawal days in a particular pay month. And the easiest solution to this problem is to work out what your wages are as a weekly figure and make sure that you spend no more than this in any given week. And that means that in a 4-week month, you'll save a little bit of your salary, and this will cover the extra that you'll need during a 5-week month. So, how do you convert weeks to months? If you ask most people how many weeks there are in a year, they'd say 52. But actually, that isn't quite right. Because of the way that we calculate leap years and because of the way the Earth moves around the Sun, it turns out that there's actually an average of 52.1775 weeks in a year. Some weeks are a little less and some more, depending on whether it's a leap year, but that figure is the average. Now, does this matter? When it comes to budgeting, yes, it does. Suppose, for example, that you earn £5,200 a year after taxes. You might think that you can spend £100 every week, but actually, on average, you'd end up spending £5,217.75 on average every year, which as time goes on means that you'll be spending more money than you actually have coming in. So in fact your debts would actually be rising little by little. To be on the safe side, it's always best to work out your income as being a little lower than it actually is, and to count your spending as being a little higher. And the way we do this is calculating weekly income as monthly income times 12 over 52.2, and spending, weekly spending that is, as monthly spending times 12 divided by 52. Now if we take an example, say you earn £1,000 a month after tax, that works out to be £230.76 per week, rounding down. If, for example, you spend £50 per month on a particular bill, that works out to be £11.54 per week, in this case rounding up. By following this safety first policy, it means that you'll always have a few pennies extra in your pocket at the end of the year, which is better than not having quite enough to pay an important bill that may come along. Now, these days, many people use credit and debit cards to make purchases. And I think cards are a really great idea. They can be very convenient because you don't have to carry large sums of money around. You can buy things online, and you can buy things even if you don't have enough money in your wallet at a particular time. So used wisely, yeah, cards are good. But cards bring their own problems. They can make it too easy to spend money. Psychologically, it's much easier to hand over a card and punch in a PIN number than handing over hard cash. And unless you're really good at record keeping, it's very easy to lose track of how much you're actually spending with cards. If you find that you're running up an increasing debt on a debit or credit card, it probably means that you're overspending and it's time to do something about it. At least by budgeting, you're more likely to find out that such a problem exists, and so you can take action. I think the rule with cards is to use them carefully. They do make life easier, but it's really important to keep track of card spending and to remember that money spent on a card is still money spent that's going to have to be paid for sometime in some way. Now this is all about allowing for contingency. And contingency means what happens if things go wrong. In financial terms, this means keeping some money aside in case you have an unexpected expense. So we've put some examples there. Your car may break and need a new engine, your house may need a new roof, you may lose your job, etc., etc. Hopefully these things never happen, but it's always a good idea to be ready in case they do. Now, as a general rule, it's a good idea to aim to keep at least 6 months' salary aside in case of this kind of emergency. So, if you earn £200 a week, you should aim to have around £5,200 available to spend should you need to. That's not always possible, but that's the kind of target that you should try to have. Now, alongside your contingency money, you also need to save for infrequent payments like car insurance, etc. So, if your car insurance is £300 a week, you need to save about £6 a week or £25 a month to cover that bill when it becomes due. And you'll find that if you can set aside that money each week or each month, when the bill does drop on your doormat, it's a lot less painful to pay it. Now, contingency money ideally should be kept in a savings account that pays you some interest. And you can shop around, say on the internet, to find the best deal, the best rate of interest. But remember, because you could need this money at any time, whatever account you keep it in, you should make sure that that account allows you to withdraw it at short notice or preferably immediately. Okay, thanks for joining me for part 2. I look forward to seeing you in part 3.